Hello, intrepid followers, subscribers, and watchers of my YouTube videos. It's another cosplay in the Geekfort, and today I am here with I Melt for Warm Hugs. Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Joel. Love to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you could come on. It's exciting. I've always wanted to talk more about your cosplays. We meet up at so many conventions and get to talk, but we're all busy just having fun at the conventions and wearing our cosplays and just
Right.
being fun. And so it's really nice to sit down and talk with you one-on-one about what you do and what you like.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right, so first question is the obvious one, of course. When did you start cosplaying?
So for me, well, it was the fall of 2018. But what really prompted that for me was I'm heavily involved in Girl Scouts, and in the spring we had an event, and I had worn I made a Tinkerbell costume, and so I didn't know that it was a cosplay. It was just a costume, but I put a lot of work into it because I wanted it to look legit, or not do it at all. It was kind of like go big or go home. And so, but it did really well. And then some friends of mine in the spring had brought me to Emerald City that year. And, but I didn't know what that was. And so they bought my ticket. They were like, "You're coming with us." And they drugged me. And it was overwhelming. And I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. I was like, wow, there's all these people and there's all these costumes, and everybody kept asking me for photos. And I'm a bit of a peacock, but that was overwhelming. I mean, that was like, I don't know what to do with this, because people, like, one person would stop for a photo and then a line would form. And as somebody who's never experienced that, it freaked me out. I was like, and my friends were like, it's good. We can see you because your wings are like 9 feet tall. We're gonna head over this way. We'll catch up with you as soon as you can get here, and so that's kind of how it went. But I was hesitant to do anything with that. I actually kind of had to sit on that for a while, and it took me some months. And so in the fall is when I finally decided, I think I want to do cosplay. I want to jump into this community. I want to get involved. I want to meet people. I want to do this. But it took me that time. So I would say my first, cosplay was really Jack Skellington. But it was Tink was, but I didn't know what it was at the time. So my first, as being part of the community, knowing what it is, actually doing a cosplay, it was more of a Jack Skellington piece, and that was for Jet City. That was the first con that I had gone to. So besides the Emerald City that they had drugged me to.
Sure. It sounds like that first Emerald City was sort of like you didn't know what you were getting into. You were going to the lion's den.
And what's funny is, so because I had that experience, how a lot of times when you do something the first time, it's that first impression.
Oh, totally.
And so, my first year cosplaying was wonderful. I met a lot of people. It just really connected with the community. But when Emerald City came around in 2019, I was scared to go because I'd had that experience, even though I had connected with everybody. And I remember I bought 4 days, and I got to work, I was scared to use them. I was like, I don't know if I even want to go to this. Like, maybe I should sell these or give them to somebody, and what's funny is, so I went, and the first day I showed up and immediately started seeing all these familiar faces, people I've been connecting with online and just at different cons, at smaller, local things. And it was like all of that melted away in like 10 minutes. I mean, it was just like, oh man, I'm like one of these people. And everybody was just really welcoming, and so I realized I was a bigger part of the community than I had even realized that I was.
Cool.
So,
yeah, that's a great feeling to have. Like, you're still hesitant. You don't know if this is really what you want to do. And then there's that moment where you're with everyone and you're just in the moment. And it's like, oh, I feel like I'm a part of this. That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to your cosplays, when you were making that Tinkerbell for that first time, when it wasn't really like you were going like gung-ho into cosplay, but you just made it because you thought it would be really cool. What was your decision on making something that isn't the usual gender norm for someone who looks male? And I know that's not your identified gender norm, but like, what was that for you like? making
Well,
that.
so like I said, I'm heavily involved in Girl Scouts, and I'm often, the only guy that goes to any of the Girl Scout events or, camps or big events. And and so the year before we had a dance party type thing, and so there was, like like 100 kids out dancing on the floor, and I had worn an Olaf costume, but it was a store bought one,
Oh,
and it was fleece and it was hot,
oh no.
and I was sweating in this thing. And so that actually was when I told Lacey, my wife, I said, next year when we do this, I'm gonna wear a girl. I'm gonna wear like I'm gonna be a girl in a small dress. And part of it for me was I just didn't want to be sweaty while we were dancing, but the other part of me was I'm a little flamboyant, and I wanted to peacock a little bit, and I also thought it would be fun to see if they would even know who I was, and they didn't. Nobody recognized me. So, until I started telling people, or other people that knew that I was doing this told people, and then but so I think that was probably the surface cursory reasons, but underneath all of that was that as a guy my age, I'm 53, and so growing up in the world that I did, and in the geographical area that I did, it was just really super conservative and very closed-minded thinking people. And so somebody that has that's like me inside isn't allowed to express themselves or be that way. You're just not allowed to. And so I think for me, this that building that costume was a way that I could express how I felt, and in an art form. And I was doing it at a Girl Scout party, which I was pretty sure that it would go over really well there, and I wasn't really planning on taking it to a bigger stage. I just I felt comfortable with these people, and so I felt like it was okay here, kind of a thing. And but what happened was all of those people started saying, this is really good, and you need to basically go bigger. You need to do this. I realized there's a big disparity in how people view you depending on the group you're in. Um, I remember I did the costume for Halloween that year, and we walked down the main street, and I remember getting a lot of compliments from women, not so many from men. I heard a lot of men talking behind my back, not saying very nice things. But I think for me it was still that leap where you just step out and say, I'm going to do this. So it I didn't really care so much about the negativity because there was so much positivity behind me that I figured I could kind of face anything, and now I kind of don't, care what people think about it. So, but that was my real reason, was to experience what it feels like to just kind of let loose and be myself. And yeah.
Cool. I think I know for me, I've said this to you before, you being able to let loose and be yourself really inspired me to feel comfortable doing some of the cosplays I've done. Yeah. And it was really great to see that you were willing to step out of your comfort zone. Like you talked about, the first place you did it was somewhere you felt safe. And that I think is important, is if you're feeling safe enough to come out of your shell as a person and do something new, that's great. And then you were able to feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, I just want to keep doing this because it was fun and I enjoy it, and I don't really care like what those other people think. I'm just doing this because it's fun for me and I enjoy it. And I think that's
Yeah.
really great. It's inspiring to hear. That's great. So what's the most ambitious cosplay you have created so far, you think?
Ambitious is a you have to define the word. And I think for me, when I think about what was ambitious, was when I was still pretty new to cosplay. I really didn't know anybody yet, and so um, I had a friend that was inviting me to a lot of events, just small things, just little get-togethers, little things. And kick off the cons happened right after. This was after Jet City, so that it was early in the year, and I want to say it was February of 19. And so she invited me, and but I only had about a week notice on this, and so I didn't have a new costume or anything planned. But I had, I'm a big Jack Frost fan. I love the Rise of the Guardians movie, and I thought, well, this would be great. I mean, it's still winter. It just felt like a good cosplay to do, and I'm going to be a little honest too. The reason I picked two male cosplays for my first cosplays after having done Tink is because I get a lot of inappropriate messages from guys on my account, and not so much anymore. But when I first started my account and I only had the Tink pictures, it was like every day. It was just an onslaught of just really inappropriate messaging and things like that. And so part of it was I wanted to kind of put it out there that I'm a guy, mainly to to hopefully short circuit that.
Right.
And so I picked a couple of male cosplays off the bat. But that's not really where my heart was or what I wanted to do so much. It was more just trying to show some diversity there. But I think, and this is a rabbit trail, if I might, for a second. This is a big learning experience for me, just seeing firsthand what women deal with often, from guys in the private messages and things like that. And what I realize is, for me, all I have to say is, "Hey, I'm a guy. You got me wrong," or something, and then they go away. But women can't do that.
Mm.
And so it's that piece where I'm like, I have an out, and I don't have to put up with this abuse, because it's very uncomfortable. And so it's just been a very eye-opening experience.
No, I think it's good to bring up is the fact that there is that mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
That people think that it's okay to talk to women in general that way, but also to women cosplay. That they somehow now have a green card to be able to just
Right.
go in there and say those things. And it is very important to bring up because it is a part of I think anything about our world, especially for women, just in general for women, it's hard. And I think that's important to bring up. That
Yeah.
good that you're realizing, wow, this is what it must be like. I now understand fully what women go through on a daily basis,
Yeah.
not just in cosplay. And I think that's important to bring up because it's an issue.
And having done, when I do female cosplays, I think one of the main things that I want, because I've been deprived of it my whole life, I want to feel pretty. I want to know what pretty feels like. And so that's one of my motivations. And so, but there's some baggage that comes along with that.
Yeah,
So
totally. I think that's one of the things also, that's another point, is that the word pretty has been made such a codified gender norm word.
right.
But yet, in historical perspective, really wasn't. There's a lot of words we now have genderfied that weren't. And so I think that's important to bring up, is that you felt or thought, this is something that I want to be able to do that makes me feel, and this is the word that I want to use to describe that feeling. And you decide, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just doing it, and that's what I want. And that's really great.
Yeah.
It's empowering for you, but also empowering for everyone else out there who watches this, to know that it's okay to use that word to describe the feeling you're feeling and how you want to use it. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. So, but my most ambitious, I think, was Jack Frost, just simply because it was done in a week, and I've always been kind of a hands-on, self-motivated kind of a person, and I like to just kind of shoot from the hip and just kind of think things through, and I still really don't utilize YouTube as much as I should for tutorials or to see how other people have done things. I often just look at something and go, well, I think I can make it that way, and I dive in. And so I did that with Jack Frost, and it was fine. I mean, it came out fine, but I hotboxed my bathroom because I had to get some product and things to dry in a short amount of time. I mean, I think I was up to 110 degrees in the bathroom because I used one of those little digital thermostat thing. I had multiple heaters running and and everything in there just to try to get everything to dry.
So you did a full con crunch of including your house.
Yeah. Right.
Well, cool. Wow, that is ambitious, and the picture I've seen of it looks great. I mean, that's just a cool one. So, since having done that character in that short amount of time, have you thought about going back to it and either upgrading it or changing it or making it different in a way? What?
The only thing I've done with a change on that one is, so I've done Todoroki from Boku no Hero Academia, and I used the technique to put ice on my skin, like my hands and my face, to create
Yeah.
ice. So when I did Jack Frost, I've done it a second time. I did it at Rose City in Portland. And when I did Jack Frost, that on that occasion I did ice that I had learned from doing it on Todoroki.
So when it comes to your favorite cosplays that you've done so far, which one do you think you like the most, like that you really enjoy being in?
Oh, it's always Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will always be for me. Yeah, I'm, and I'll probably always be improving that one. Different dresses, different things. I've made a second set of wings since the first time, and the second set has fiber optics in them that have a remote, so
Oh,
that the fiber optics can glow. I gotta say though, I'm disappointed. I didn't really research this stuff as much as I should have. I just kind of went for it, and fiber optics don't glow as much as I would have liked.
oh,
They're supposed to side glow, and they do,
uh-huh.
but you have to be in subdued lighting to really see it. So when you're out in the sun, you can't even tell that they're glowing. And so I think next time I would probably use EL wire or something like that. And I probably will. What I've been thinking is, so my second set of wings that I made they're welded together. They're 3/16 cold rolled steel, and I welded the entire frame, so they're solid. And they don't really flex or bend or much of anything. And one of the reasons I do that is because I like having the open, wild edge on the side, where a lot of times when you see wings made, there's this 360 wire that runs around the perimeter. I just don't like that. I
Hmm.
just like the loose, free edge that is not bound. I want it to be able to flow. I want it to look natural. I don't like that wire in there holding it firm on the edge. And so I need to work with frames that will support it on the other edges so that I can have most of it just free and exposed.
That
This
sounds
is a personal preference.
Yeah, I think that's a great preference. I think in a way, like you said, it sort of changes the shape of it and the way it looks. So it looks more like a
Hmm.
real wing. It's not like
Right.
a man-made thing. It's more natural looking. Like it's
Hmm.
an actual wing, like you'd find like on a dragonfly or something, because that's what her wings
Right.
look like, you know.
Yeah. But I also like to go a little big. And so the problem was the first set that I made, I just used, I do construction work and I am familiar with, materials from that. And so in commercial work, there are wires that suspend grid ceilings. If you go into an office and there's the 2x4 grids in the ceiling,
Yes.
there's wires above that suspend all those, and they're just 12 gauge wires. And that's what I used to make the first set of wings. And I think I had two of them bound together for the support, but they still flex and bounce a lot, when you walk, that type of thing, which is good if you're maybe running into doorways with them. It's nice that they, flex a little bit. But the I, because they'll bend, one of the problems that you have with a system like that is if they stay bent or they bend, if they permanently bend at all, you can't really straighten them back out because there's the free edge, right? And so what I needed was something that was stronger, more supportive, that wouldn't bend. And so I picked this 3/16 cold rolled steel, welded the whole frame solid, and then I used some interior wire to pull that down to force it into a little bit of a bend so you have the curvature. But I wanted it under tension
Okay.
because I wanted that, to basically stay rigid. I didn't want it to be able to move, and so I forced it under tension when I made it, and then added all the details.
Cool.
But sorry, but the
Go ahead.
problem with that is they don't travel well.
Oh
You know,
no,
these
that's right.
things, they
Uh-huh.
stand at roughly 9 feet when they're on. The wings are, they're just a couple inches under 9 feet. So you can, like the convention center, a lot of the ceilings, usually I'm just barely getting through. There are some higher ceilings in there, but there's also some 8 foot ceilings in there. And so I've had to actually like, bend down or crawl through some of those areas that are 8 foot ceilings in the convention center. But what I want to be able to do is travel to other cons doing a tink, and I still want my big wings. And so I've been thinking about ways to make them portable and break down, that I can pack them into a suitcase and
Yeah,
then re-expand them when I get there.
that's a good.
So I've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
some designs in my head that are still rolling around, but that's some things that I've been working
cool.
through.
So what con, like what's one con that you would really love to go to that's a little farther afield than just the Pacific Northwest?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'll take Tink there, but I'm probably gonna want to do a BlizzCon, and beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think for me it would really matter more who I was going with. So I guess I don't really care. I just want to be with some friends, if that makes sense.
Totally get that.
Yeah, it's really about the friends, and so I don't really want to go alone. I mean, I occasionally I do, like when Emerald City's here, and there's all the days. Sometimes I'll just show up because I know there's going to be tons of people I know, and I'm going to end up hanging out with them. So
Yeah,
I don't need to plan that.
yeah,
That's just going to happen.
yeah. That's the hardest part about going to the cons that are farther away from where you're one used to going, but then also like just it's the airplane and then the
Yeah,
hotel and then the con. So it's like
yeah,
it adds up.
yeah.
So Tinkerbell is one of your favorites. What's one that you haven't tried that you'd love to do?
I am working well. So one of them was gifted to me. So Takamina Cosplay, Lauren, gave me a Supergirl that was one of her early costumes that she got started with.
Cool.
So she passed it on to me, but my hands and feet are a lot bigger than hers, and so the costume, it fits okay. So I just needed to figure out the boots, and so I ended up making, and that I did go to YouTube for. Finally, I'm starting to learn, that I don't need to reinvent everything, and so I did figure out how to make boot covers and attach them to shoes and tailor them. So but that was still a first time learning experience as far as sewing those, because I'm okay on a sewing machine. I'm a beginner really. I don't have a lot of skill, but enough to do some things. And making those, putting the zippers up the back, they're form fitting because they're women's cut. Where if they were male boots, they would just be straight and with no shape in them, no curves. But these really curve all the way up and follow, your calves and everything.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so that was a lot of like tearing out the zipper and redoing it.
Oh,
So one of my boots has a bunch of holes in it from where all the stitches were.
oops.
You can't really see them. They're,
Okay. Okay.
whatever. But the other one's perfect, since I was able to finally get the shape that I needed. I probably should have done it with something other than the good material. That's another lesson to be learned. And the other one I've been working on is Aravity, or Ochako Araraka from Boku no Hero. So I've mostly all completed her. There's some just little details I need to deal with. But that one's taken me a long time because I did my own take on her battle pieces, and I'm using a really glossy paint finish on everything. So there's been so much sanding and painting, so much sanding and painting. I can't even tell you how much sanding and painting. Just because the finishes are mirror smooth. I mean, like you can get a reflection in them and see reflections in them. So they're very, high gloss, high finish, um, and so that's just so much more time. And looking back, I don't think I would have done it that way. I would have probably just covered some foam and material and called it a day. But
But that's the thing is you tried something new just to see if
yeah,
it would work, and I'm sure it's gonna look great when you put it on.
yes,
But yeah, like
yeah,
there's that part of you that's like, oh, yeah, not doing that again.
yeah. So when I do get pictures of that, I want to make sure and get some of that gloss and that shine in there, because I spent so much time, sanding and painting. I just want it to show. I've done the gauntlets, the belt, and the boots, but and the neck piece. Yeah, so there's several different things I want to do, and I haven't started on these yet, but I want to do Aang from The Last Airbender.
Oh, fun.
yeah, I just think that'd be a fun. I really enjoyed watching it. I think it'd be a good one for me to do.
And
And he's just kind of a carefree kid in there, and that's me. Like that's kind of what I do. I mean, when I'm hanging out with the Girl Scouts, I'm doing cartwheels with the girls, and so I've also been thinking I'd like to do a Shigaraki from Boku no Hero, just because the hands they're cool. And I've looked at some different ways to make them, and I think I have a good plan in my mind how to make the hands. So yeah,
cool. That's
yeah.
neat. Awesome. Cool. So when it comes to feeling like a motivation or like where you want to go with your cosplay, or when you're feeling like you're, I don't know, running out of steam or having a block, what is the thing that sort of motivates you to keep going or to keep creating the cosplays you're doing?
So, well, right now it's hard to find motivation in anything, and I think everybody's experiencing this. But I think for me, it's like I like challenging myself. I like to be able to, it's it, it's like encouraging and liberating to yourself to be able to overcome something that you haven't done before, and you often find that it's easier than you think it is.
Hmm.
And so anybody that's watching the video, I would encourage you, if you're hesitating or not sure if you're capable of doing a cosplay, do it, and plug into the community, because you would not you'd be surprised at how many people will want to help you and give you advice on things. They really are. They really do. I remember when I first did my Jack Skellington, I went to Jet City, and I met one of my best friends there, Death Bright, and she didn't know me from Adam, and she immediately started pointing out that I could be using better makeup. And some people would be offended at that, like, oh, you're critiquing, but for me, that was like, yeah, tell me more. And so she sent me all these links, all these tutorials, and it was like, I love you, like, I mean, that's helpful stuff, and I'm, as long as you're willing to, accept the criticism, and a lot of people, don't put up a wall. It's just, but people want to be so helpful. They really do.
I think that's one of the
So,
great things about the community too, is that helpfulness, more that helpfulness that comes across when you're meeting people in the community than the negativity when it's face to face, especially. So yeah, Death Bright, just a great person in general. I hope to talk to
yeah.
her on the show too. And she's really great at giving advice and helping out. I think that's really great. Cool.
Well, as far as like advice, I think for people that are, in cosplay, I think the Pacific Northwest Guild of Cosplayers is a good resource to connect with. I would highly recommend, connecting with the group, because they're really all going back to what we first started talking about. For me, it was I had to feel like I was in a safe place
Hmm.
to go out and do my cosplay and to get started, and you build from there. But you have to have a safe place to start,
Totally.
and that's what they're all about. They're all about creating a safe environment that is supportive, and they don't tolerate any BS. I mean, if there are people that are in the Pacific Northwest Guild of Cosplayers that are breaching those codes of conduct or saying inappropriate things, they get booted.
Hmm.
So it's a place that fosters that type of environment for you to be able to go.
Yeah, if there's
So
someone watching this that is in the Pacific Northwest, joining that guild is great. I'm a part of it. And it's really great because right now we do have some sort of like online meetups where we can talk about what's going on.
yeah,
Like when you're feeling that lack of motivation to do a cosplay, it's great because we can talk about what we're doing with our cosplay, but also just other parts of our life and feel safe. Like we're a
yeah,
safe group of people to do it in. And I think if there's people out there watching who aren't in the Pacific Northwest, finding that group that's out there. And I know there's some out there, it's finding that group of people. If you don't have friends that you feel comfortable doing it with, finding an organization or a group, a charity. There's a lot of cosplay charities out there that do a
yeah,
lot of stuff like that too. So yeah, that's a great organization. I agree.
yeah, yeah,
Wholeheartedly.
yeah. So but I would also caution that not everybody in the community is your friend. So you do need to kind of be aware.
Yes.
Um, and especially people that are on looking from the outside, they don't always understand what cosplay is, and so sometimes you'll be judged by people that don't really know what they're looking at.
Totally. And that's the hardest thing, I think, when you're showing your cosplay or people seeing your cosplay who maybe don't know what the cosplay is or don't understand what cosplay is. It's very confusing for them. And so getting to be able to like say to them, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then also being able to be like, have a thick enough skin to be okay with whatever they say. And in the beginning, that's hard, like very hard, I think.
Yeah, but again, for me, just the support that I've had around me, has just been really great, and so that's helped me to, to push that forward and to just keep crashing those boundaries and keep moving forward. And I'm happier than I've ever been. I feel more free than I've ever felt. I'm actually able to just kind of discard a lot of the baggage from how I was raised, and just the different environments that I've been in. On my account, I have a lot of young people that follow my account, and that it's always intriguing to me when I look at my statistics, as to who the followers are and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm impressed by it. I really am, and humbled too that so many young people do. And occasionally I get messages, from kids, and they'll say things like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. You're really inspiring me. You're really, a great example. And I love that, because that just makes me want to, it gives me confidence and pushes me forward as well.
So then let's talk about that, giving back. What's a charity organization in the world right now that you feel that you support and want to give back to and want other people to know about?
Well, so Lacey and I give to the Union Gospel Mission in Seattle. They have a lot of different programs. There's different, they have some for women and children, and they'll house them and help them to get onto a career path and kind of regain their life, which is great. Yeah, and I mean, it's not just free meals, but I mean those are important, right? I mean, we've all got to eat. So, and I've taken groups down there before and been part of the line where you feed people coming through, and I would recommend doing that if you've never done it. It's one of those things where it's very eye-opening to see how people are living, and
Totally. Yeah, I think that's great about the missions and the gospel missions that help with those that are in need, is having support for places for people to go to get the things they need, so that they don't have to, they might come in wearing a plastic bag, but they might leave with a jacket.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
And they've also got a meal in their belly to keep them warm too. So I think that's a great organization.
Yeah, but they go far beyond just meals. They have these programs to get people back on their feet, and that's important. So I don't know, it's one dear to my heart.
Great. So I'll put a link in the description to that organization. So if you out there watching this want to give, you can give as well.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today. Thank you again, Shane, for coming on and sharing your story of being a cosplayer and everything that you've learned and love about cosplaying. I hopefully get to see you again at a con or somewhere in a cosplay.
Yes, we will.
And of course, they can find you online as I Melt for Warm Hugs. Is that correct?
Yep, I Melt for Warm Hugs Instagram.
Yeah, cool. Well, I will put a link to that in the description as well. And for all of you out there watching, thanks for joining us. Again, links in the description to everything we talked about today. And if you want to know more about other cosplay interviews I've done, at the end here will be a little playlist you can look at and see. And come and join me every Sunday here in the Geekfort at 2 o'clock, and we play Mad Libs and talk about all the geeky things we can think of. And that's it for tonight, and thank you again, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye, Joel.